Hey, what's up? It's another Thursday. Another Thursday.
Another
It's not
Tuesday.
Thurs. Another Tuesday. That tells you I've been away for a few days and I'm tired. I got in late last night from Naperville, but man, oh man, what a week it was. We had several things happen. Well, we
Mhm.
had the girls' duels, the boys' duels, 16U women, men, juniors. They were going on throughout the nation. We had uh, we had a couple kids. I know Abdon, who we'll have on shortly, went
Mhm.
out to went out and won a gold at Pan-Ams. We had Eli Rivera, who took home a silver
Mhm.
um, down there, so that was awesome. And and man, oh man, we had the AAU Scholastic Duels was going on.
Yep.
But I mean, looking through and like I tell everybody, get on to SC Wrestle. You'll see Alabama, Florida, Tennessee battle it out. I mean, Florida finished 12th. Florida 16U women dual team, All American and Greco. Anyway, we'll get into all that. Man, and a weekend for me. I was up at North Central, my son's college, and I got to do their fundraising golf tournament, and that was a good time. But I'm
Is there
back
are there
now.
are there pictures of you golfing or
I
video?
I I,
That
I
video would be
hope
better. I hope there's video.
I hope not. There is video of my kids because I had the camera, so I was good. But there is
That
a
right there is the trick, guys. That's the trick. If you don't want to be
yes.
on the camera in the pictures, get yourself a camera. Trust
uh,
me.
there is pictures of me like this with my kids. We all wore our Ward Wrestling blue polos. That was cool. So it was really a good time to be up there and do that and see all the coaches and just have a good time. In the meanwhile, man, oh man, wrestling was happening all over the place, huh?
Yeah, it was. And we're gonna get to the details of some of the things that happened this past week. Um, but let me just give you some headlines before we kind of get to that because we're gonna have, as you said, um, a special guest in Lake Gibson's Little Rocks, Brendon Abdon, who shout out to Brendon in that he won a gold medal in Greco at Pan-Ams, which is a absolutely unbelievable accomplishment. I can't wait to talk to him about that. That is so cool that, to go, to another country, compete for the colors of or your country. And I just think that's a pretty cool situation. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. And couldn't happen to a better young man. So
Absolutely. So we'll have him on in
uh,
a second. But yeah, it was busy. I didn't pay attention to a whole lot of the AAU Scholastic Duels. I know they were going on. It's always a big event. I wonder if it was as big this year as it has been in the past because they moved it further south, which makes it a longer trip for most of the teams.
yeah.
Although maybe a lot of teams are flying in. I don't know.
So on the boys' side this year, 111 teams. On the boys' side last year in Orlando, 172 teams. On the girls' side, 30 teams this year. On the girls' side, 39 teams last year. So quite a bit down. And I don't know if that obviously that has to do with location. It also I can't imagine the national duels affected it much because a lot of those big time
Yeah.
kids would not have affected that. Disney's usually something different, but yeah, I went and looked at the numbers this morning because I was curious, and um, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of teams, 60 something teams. I mean, that's quite a bit. And then on the girls' side, I know 39 to 30. So down 9 teams, but I heard that a lot of the teams kind of had to patch together a little bit down there. So I could be totally wrong. So somebody jump in and tell me that's kind
Yeah.
of what I heard. But
Yeah, we don't want to draw any conclusions
right.
about all that, but I know in having conversations with people leading up to the duel, like leading up, like once it was announced it was moving, there were people who were like, "Yeah, I think that's going to impact the number of teams that travel down." And I was interested, so I'm glad you pulled those numbers. And the
Yeah,
number of
sure.
39 to 30 isn't huge, but with women's wrestling growing at such a clip, and everything else, we might have expected 39-70 for the
Yeah,
girls.
it should have definitely went the other direction. And look, AAU they do a good job. I'm sure they put on a great tournament. I'm sure they did everything they could do with what they had. But it's from what I understand in the like I tell people in the 20 minutes I've been in wrestling, it was always a destination tournament. You talk to parents across the country and coaches across the country. They enjoyed setting up their Disney vacation around that, their Universal vacation around that, and they were able to come in, do the wrestling tournament, and then they would stay a week or so and they could bring little brother, little sister, little cousin, little niece, little nephew, grandma, uncle, aunt, whatever, and they could make a whole trip of it. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. But hopefully it went well and they did good. But yeah, and then obviously the Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and the South teams really put on a show. And I'd love to get your thought. I know we're going to talk Greco here in about a minute and a half.
We are, and actually, this is a good segue into that. In that, this is the first. I don't know if it was the first year, but definitely we now have women's Greco.
Yes, I want it. It was awesome.
14 U's, 16 U's, and at the duels, I don't think it's on the schedule for Fargo yet, so they're not wrestling in Fargo yet. But I'll tell you what, watching the girls wrestle Greco was a lot of fun.
Especially because a lot of those girls come from judo and jiu-jitsu and certain martial arts, and those hip tosses, those headlocks, those throws. Obviously we see a young lady like Jacqueline Busakis up in Pennsylvania tossing people like Greco's like made for her. But we saw a young lady in Paulette Perez that is from Florida, but we didn't have a 14U team, I don't think. So she went to New York. Didn't we? Didn't they say girls 14U wasn't? I think we had a 16U girls team.
So the only reason I gave you that look is because some states had a 14U team, but not a 16U team, girls Greco. Right. Some states had a 16U Greco team, but not a 14U Greco team.
She's a Florida girl. Yeah, she's a Florida girl. She wrestles at her school is Doral. Her club is Gladiator. And she was undefeated up in New York for New York, for Team New York. It's a Florida girl. And she got tournament All-American, tournament outstanding wrestler. She killed it this weekend. So good for her. And, with that being said, we got somebody to talk to. Let's bring in Brendon Abdon. Here he comes. Boom. There he is.
Boom is right. It's like those 4-point throws. Boom.
What's up, you guys?
What's happening, man? It's so good to see you, man. I've been watching, trying to keep up with you, but man, you look in better shape now than you were in high school, and that's kind of scary.
For sure. I am.
No, you're doing great. Brendon, I'm really interested in when I say Pan-Am gold medalist. How's that sound?
Sounds great. It's cool, and it's just a step in the international process and everything that I want to accomplish internationally. I love the Olympic styles, and I can't wait to go on to bigger and better things.
Yeah. How does it feel? I just can't even imagine. You rep. We all get excited. You rep your Team Florida shirt, you rep your Florida, your state, and those sorts of things. Now you get to rep your country.
Yeah, it was sick. I mean, I think the first realization I'm really representing the U.S. was when the gear came in, and it was Team USA and had my name on the back, and I just thought that was one of the coolest things. So it's just exciting, and there's so much more opportunities out there, like Worlds and, the Olympics in 4 years going to LA. And so I'm excited to, go through that stuff. And hopefully
it is really cool to see all the uniform photos, not just USA. You saw Ecuador and Puerto Rico and Colombia and Mexico. And you can tell that something's coming big because all the kids and young adults are posting that stuff. But yeah, to see you out there, and wasn't Shannon with you out there as well?
Yeah, Shannon was with us. Shannon actually saved us the first night. They ran out of hotel rooms or something happened with the hotel, and I just texted Shane. I'm like, "Hey, do you care if I stay in your room?" It was just him, and he's like, "Yeah, come on." And so I luckily got to stay in his room the first night while half of the team went to a different hotel. So
Oh wow, wow, that always good to have a former teammate in your back pocket to kind of pick you up when you need somebody, right?
yeah, it was nice
It was
having him
good.
there, and us working out. Like I knew I had a workout partner that next day. I didn't have to kind of find someone else. I knew I can drill with someone that I've drilled with in the past. So it was just a really good experience to have two elder guys there and to
Yeah, I
be
was
able
gonna
to.
say two Lake Gibson legends down
Yes,
there repping their countries, and I mean, he's partially our country too.
yeah, he's partially is.
When you get to that level, I mean, I just love watching you guys compete. Obviously, a Team USA across your chest, that sort of thing. That means something. But I'm sure, wherever he's repping, or Rivera in Puerto Rico, Dan's, son repping in Puerto Rico in a few weeks, that sort of thing. It's got to be cool to have that opportunity. You spoke about the gear coming in and the realization. Did you have a little bit of like, oh man, I've now got like some weight on my shoulders? Did you feel any pressure as a result of being a Team USA member?
Honestly, not really. I mean, I kind of, I lost to Garvin at U23s, and that kind of just put a fire in me. And I trained really hard. I did a lot of extra things that, a lot of people didn't see outside of it, late night runs and getting in some extra lifts and just kind of doing the hard things then. Cause it was only like a 3 week timetable to where I had, from U23s to Pan-Ams.
Yeah.
It was 3 weeks, so it was fast. And I mean, I came home for 3 days to run a camp, but even during that, it was, 7 to 7. I was working out with guys back at Lake Gibson and just trying to do the most I can so I could leave it all on the mat. And so I knew the the time and effort that I put in, especially the last 3 weeks. I knew that it was all going to pay off, and I knew that I did everything I had to. So I just had to go out there and wrestle. And I feel like when I wrestle the best, it's when I'm not scared. I'm not worried about anything. I knew I did the work, so it was just time to go out there and put on a show.
Yeah, I mean, we remember that huge semifinal win at Fargo in Greco against Chittum, which tore the roof off the place. And yeah, you seem to always get up for those big matches, and it was cool. Uh, was this your first time getting a chance to travel the world to wrestle?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was my first international tournament, which was really sick. Colombia was a super cool country. We actually got to kind of go around on that second day and like get a feel for the country and just see everything. It was super outdoorsy, which I loved, and it was really cool. But wrestling internationally is super sick, even though you can't understand anyone unless you speak Spanish.
Well, I mean, wrestling's got a little bit of a common language. You understand the hand signals and you understand those sorts of things. But yeah, you're right. Like everybody's speaking a different language, and you're probably a little bit like, what's going on?
Yeah, we were the outcasts there for sure. Everyone was speaking Spanish or some sort of it, and we're just trying to use Google Translate just to get around. And
is it weird being like, so here you get into like a routine, you're where to go, like train and what to eat and all the different things. And now you're going to a foreign country and the food might be a little bit different than what you normally are used to, all the different things. Is that play a role?
It does. I mean, we went to the grocery store and like we couldn't find Cliff Bars. Like that's what it's like a Cliff Bar or like a granola bar. I packed some stuff, but like it didn't last me very long. So on my next trip, I definitely pack more. But no, it definitely was different. Like we had all the water we had to drink was like out of a water bottle. Like we couldn't drink tap because past trips people have said that they've gotten sick. So yeah, it was a little different. I mean, I tried to stay as close as to healthy and as possible, but sometimes you just had to go with the flow and try something else out, and hopefully it doesn't make you sick.
Yeah. Did you get the opportunity to, at least I just know from what's like the itinerary that Daniel's got, to go to Lima they require him to stay through the 4 days of competition and kind of be there with the team and stuff like that. Is that the same with USA? Did you have to stay and watch freestyle, or not have to, but did you get to and
No,
enjoy all
unfortunately,
that?
yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to watch freestyle, which I don't know if that was the original plan or not, because I did get told at one point that we were staying through freestyle, which I was super stoked about to see, the guys that I compete against, and especially get to see Shannon. I mean, Shannon versus Wyatt Henson first round of Pan-Ams had to be a barn burner, and it was just, I think it ended up being 4-2. Henson won. But, I mean, I wish we could have stayed for freestyle. But, yeah, it was, I think most of the team, there was like 30 of us at the Miami airport that then we took our flight to Columbia. So that's really where we kind of all came together. And by the end of the trip, we were all buddies. We were all eating out and, having fun. So no, it was good to, meet new people, meet guys all across the country that, train Greco and kind of get their different standpoints on different things and how they do things. And it's definitely some stuff that I'll add into my repertoire.
So one of the questions I have for you is last time Floridians have seen you, at least recently, is obviously when you competed in Fargo, and then you've been to Little Rock. Can you describe how your game has changed from 2 years ago to today and winning a Pan Am gold?
Yeah, I mean, coming just college in general, it is so tough, and I believe at any level there's just a major difference, and especially at Little Rock. I mean, I'm not the best guy in the room anymore, and so it's competing every day, and I've just gotten a lot better, like all around, my top, my bottom, on my feet. It's just, and learning like the little things that helped me. I believe from 2 years ago to now, I'm a completely new wrestler, a different wrestler.
It's awesome. I could imagine, because obviously I have a child in college at a much lower level than where you are, but I remember him calling me like that first week there, and he was like, the coach said you can't go to class till you get off bottom, and he's like, so I missed the first 2 classes.
Yeah, I remember my summer. I scored like 2 takedowns the whole summer, and I was like, "Do I suck?" And then I go out and Fargo. I'm like, "Okay, I don't suck."
That's cool. I mean, what's it like? I mean, obviously we saw. I mean, you and Henson have been pretty close for years. We've seen you at Knockout over the years. I mean, you guys kind of grew up with each other. To see a kid like that in your era go out and do what he did at NCAAs, what kind of confidence does that give you to say, wow, I could do that?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing him, and there's a lot of other guys. Hunter Garvin, All-American, and that's a guy that I've wrestled multiple times. Not just this year, but as kids too, and seeing all these guys that I've grown up wrestling around. The Matthew Singletons, the Crooks are 2 big ones, the Basiles, Ty Owens. Like it's just I'm right there with them. Like I'm a little bit blown, but I'm right there with them to where I can be in the NCAAs, and I have a chance to All-American next year, and it's inspiring, and at the same time it's like I want to be there, right there with you guys. Like I've won tournaments that you guys have won. I've been on the stages that you guys have been on, and I'm ready for it to be my time to go out there and get that recognition.
Well, and I think you showed that in the finals at Pan-Ams, because you pull the Peru kid in the finals, and I think you're down like 1-0 on a step out, and then you come in and you hit a big 4-point throw to really take control of the match. For anybody who didn't watch it, can you kind of tell me kind of what you were thinking in that match and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So we came in the first period, and he kind of went for like a little lat drop throw, and I landed on top of him, but they threw the brick. And by the way, the U.S. got 0 brick calls. We did not get any calls.
You expected that, right?
I know. Yeah,
you expected that.
After my first match, they threw in the brick twice, and they won both. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like I pinned them, and then they were like, oh, it's not a pin. And then so I went out there and I threw a headlock again, and they were like, all right, this time it's a pin. So we got 0 brick calls throughout the whole tournament. But he went for a lat drop. They reviewed it. I had like his heel was out, but my whole foot stepped out. So he got 1. And it was a folk style move. The first 6 points, it was an elbow pass to a body lock. And then I kind of just hit it wasn't even a gut wrench. I just kind of had a really deep tight waist in, and I kind of just rolled through, and then I locked the gut and hit 2 more, and then it was over. But once I got on top, I wasn't letting him get back to his feet. I just wanted the match to be over then.
Absolutely. That's so
did
awesome.
Did you hold him down the second pin and be like, are you sure this time? Are you sure?
At the second time, I kind of locked eyes with the ref at one point, and I was like, you better not call this not a pin again. I'd be pretty mad.
You're gonna pin the ref.
So what's next for Brendon Abdon?
It's just honestly training right now. As far as I know, Garvin's has the spot for Worlds. I know he's doing well in Greco. So but at the same time, it happened to me last year, to where a kid, like the kid, I forget who it is, but he got hurt right before Pan-Ams, and they called my parents, and we didn't have enough time to get a passport. So, we got that. I got a passport now, so we're good for the next 10 years. But, you never know what happens. You never know what happens in the next 2 to 3 months. I mean, he's in the middle of his season. He's coming off a huge season. And, he's got to do all the weight cuts for freestyle and Greco. And freestyle is more of a weight cut than Greco, and Greco's first. So he's going to have to lose weight during the tournament. So you never know what happens. But right now, it's just focusing on getting better, making the starting lineup next year again, and just kind of keeping my starting role throughout the whole year. And
so the mentality is really staying ready. You want to be ready if that call comes.
Yeah, if the call comes, I'm going to be ready no matter what. I mean, wrestling's wrestling. I mean, I know Greco's probably a little bit different, but same rules apply. You got to get takedown, you got to score on top. So
right,
and you can't get turned on bottom. So just staying ready and being ready for whatever calls next, whether that's the start of the season next year or it's Worlds in August or September, whenever it is.
Yeah, I get them confused because I know 17s and 20s are in August in Jordan, but I think 23s are up. They're in
20s is in Spain in September.
Oh, is it? Okay, my fault.
Yeah.
It all kind of goes.
I have a U20 kid, so that's the only reason I know. I can't tell you about any of the other weights and where they are at. But
so 17s must be just 17s in Jordan, right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Very cool. Well, congratulations, Brendon. A fantastic run. Unbelievable that the opportunity to wear the colors for your country. And we want to wish you the best of luck next year in 3 months. If you happen to be, on the world stage, we will be here cheering for you as loud as we were cheering for you for Pan-Ams.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, man,
Brendon.
you take it easy. Tell Dad I said what's up. He was texting me already this morning. When will it air? When will it air? So
yes, sir.
I told him I'll get it up there.
You take care, man.
Buddy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. See ya.
Bye.
Yes, sir. Man, what an awesome young man from day one when I met him. And I'm sure when you met him and just
I remember
awesome
him being
kid.
little. Like I don't know how old he was when you met him, but I remember him being like just a little tyke. I mean, and tall and kind of skinny, but like I mean,
one of the best things that has ever happened to me since I've done the pictures, right, and kind of promoted these kids is when at the end of his senior season, I got a text.
Brendon's?
Or no?
Yep. Okay.
Brendon's. I got a text message from him. I don't remember the exact words, but it said, "Thank you so much. I would have no high school memories if it wasn't for you. Thank you thank you for all that. Thank you for all the high school memories," or something like that. I mean, not no high school memories because he's going to have memories, but as far as what he meant to say for you get it, right?
Yes, I get what you're saying. I certainly, one of the things I think that you and I do, one of the reasons and the motivations is that, lots of kids have, a photographer out there or taking video, their parents are doing this, they're doing those sorts of things, but not everybody does. I'm sure Brendon does. Brian would be out there with a camera. I mean, I don't know what pictures Brian might be taking, but it, point is that it's great that we have an opportunity to be able to take pictures and provide that sort of thing to,
it was
to
awesome.
the athletes.
And it wasn't like he just was like, man, all the memories that we provided through the years is cool. But man, to get back, kind of revisit Greco. I mean, good for him. Greco has always kind of been near and dear to his heart. We watched him win a Greco national title at Fargo.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I thought that's where you were going with that. And when you said the Chittum match, I thought you were going to the title match, but you went to the semifinal match.
Well, that was the title match, right? I mean, we knew that the person coming out of that match, nothing against the other person that was in the finals, a great wrestler, but we knew that that was the winner out of that match was probably most likely gonna, barring like just a twisted ankle in the middle of a move or something, was gonna win it. But yeah, good for him.
I want to give you a shout out. And the reason I want to give you a shout out is that when we did the preview of the junior boys and girls, 16U and 14U girls, we said a few names, and in junior Greco, one of the names that you mentioned was Roderick Brown, and Roderick Brown finished 8-1 at junior duels, splitting time at 106 and 113. He was only a 6-pounder wrestling both the weights. Anderson Heap was 8-1 as well. And I'm not, a shout out to Anderson as well. But
we asked, the question was who could surprise people. And I don't think Anderson Heap was sneaking up on anybody. I think when you see Anderson Heap, everybody in the country knows exactly who that is. But I felt like Roderick was healthy. He was wrestling well, and I feel like he's big, he's strong for the weight, and I just thought that he could make a run. And I think he went 8-2 throughout the whole weekend or something, or 10-2 or something throughout the whole weekend.
I think he did. He was just 8-1 in Greco. So freestyle. Let me take a look. I'm not sure off the top of my head. He was 7-2. He was 15-3, man. 15-3.
So shout out to Roderick, my man. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one was Deshaun Poe, man, out of Alabama. I think he was unbeaten in both styles.
Ooh. Yeah, and how about I think I texted you
yeah, you did text me
after a match, and I was like, "Whoa, that boy's pretty good." The young man.
And that was the Mirasola twins.
Yeah, Mirasola and
Mako.
What a man. That's like fireworks right there. And I think that's the only match that Mako lost on the weekend, right?
Oh yeah. And that was, that was the only competitive match, and it was competitive, but man, Mirasola is a beast. A beast. And really,
he's already going off to college, right? He's already committed to Penn State.
Yeah, he's already signed with Penn State. He's getting ready to be there. And you know what? This is the South. We're talking about the dirty South here, but tip of the cap to Wisconsin, man. Those kids wrestled well. Heap's only loss in freestyle was to a Wisconsin kid. You had Gunnar Holland, who was 8-1, Willie White, who was 7-2 in freestyle. You had some good matches, but man, when you get stuck in the same, battling against Wisconsin, who brought everyone, woo, that's tough. I think we might have only gotten 6 points in that duel, and that was very unusual.
Hey, and listen, let's transition a little bit here. How about girls? That girls brought it to both tournaments, and they were working hard. And I just wish we could get the numbers for Fargo, because man, I'm telling you, I think we could make some more noise.
And
so good.
In a number of years, when Florida surpasses Pennsylvania or California or whatever, Dan's gonna be like, I told you back in
Yes.
2024. I told you.
Yeah. This
that
will be
we-
like, I'll be 72 or something. We'll be on here. Welcome to the Dirty South podcast. We're still doing this. It's just something I told you back in 2024 that girls was going to do it.
Oh wow.
But-
So I'll tell you,
but-
you know, I before Brendon came on, we did talk about the girls in Greco. I want to talk about the girls in freestyle as well. But you know, I was really impressed. I was really impressed with not just the Florida girls, you know, Erin Rizzuto, Kiki Bush, Elena Rick, you know, the girl, the heavyweight from Freedom, right? She only had one loss in Greco.
Wow.
Retrieva Claremont, is that how you say her name?
Claremont.
Yeah.
We'll proceed to screw it up anyway. So if we screw up your name, tell us.
But I'll tell you, there were studs at lots of states. Georgia girl, Corey Campbell had one loss in freestyle. No, had no losses in freestyle, one loss in Greco. That's an impressive weekend. That's a fantastic weekend. And I'll tell you what, if you don't know who Zeo Estrada is from South Carolina,
look her up.
man, I'll tell you what. And I talked to her at, I think it was Southeast Regionals. I talked to her and she has a choice of going to the Pan-Ams or going to Fargo. And she has come up just short in Fargo twice now. And she's like, I'm going to win Fargo. That's where I'm going. I'm going to win Fargo. So we will see Zeo Estrada from Team South Carolina in Fargo this year, unless things have changed.
Yeah, the last 2 years we saw her in the finals, I believe, and obviously against two very, very tough girls that she wrestled.
Well, and she lost to Claire Bowie in one of them.
Yeah,
I don't remember who she lost to before, but I remember last year she lost in the finals.
I'll tell you what, when she got in the beginning of that match against Claire Bowie, when she caught her bow and arrow, that special bow and arrow move she has.
Yeah.
I was like, uh-oh, Claire's in a little trouble, but Claire was able to fight her way through it. And I know asking Claire afterwards, she's like, we knew it was coming. I mean, obviously that's the move that we got to stay away from, because once typically when Zeo locks that bow and arrow in, you're going for a ride.
Yeah. That well, and it's like somebody who's really good at a gut or somebody who's really good at some particular moves on top. Just like Brendon said in our conversation, he's like, once I got on top, they weren't getting back up. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality you have to have, is that they're not getting back up, because I can end this match right here and now. Never give you another opportunity. You have to play defense. And if you can't do it, I win. And that's what she does. And that's what he did. And that's what so many good ones do, is they get on top. And if you can't defend it, man, you get a trapped arm gut, man, that match is over. You know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. I mean, speaking of the girls, there was oh man, I guess I'm tired from the trip.
Well, I want to give a shout out. You mentioned it before. The girls 16U in Greco, state of Florida, All-Americans, fantastic job by the crew itself. There wasn't an individual who went undefeated for the 16U girls in Greco, but you had Juliana Case, you had Gabrielle Asabi, Paola Ramirez, and Grace Jaluski, who all had really good tournaments. But the team came together to finish top 8. That's pretty cool. To finish top 8 is pretty cool.
That Greco was awesome. And let me tell you, they put a hell of a coaching squad together.
They did.
They had some of our best, if not the best, girls coaches out there with them. And I think that obviously that makes a difference.
There's so much information. You're just trying to go through it all, aren't you?
I mean, you have everything here. The Tennessees, the Floridas,
So
I mean,
one of the
there's
ones
so
that,
many young
as you're
ladies.
looking, I'm going to give you one more name that deserves a shout out, and that's in the state of Georgia, a 16U girl named Greta Garbazovas who went unbeaten in both styles, going home unbeaten in both styles, like we talked about Zeo Estrada, and that's fantastic.
And another a Florida girl who was wrestling on the Pennsylvania team, Melissa Favara, who ends the match. Like she pins the girl in the finals or in one of the matches to clinch a spot in the gold medal round or whatever they call it there. And yeah, a lot of young ladies. But man, the Greco for the girls was fun to watch.
It was. The other one that I wanted to mention, and this was, so again, if people weren't paying as close attention as kind of you and I were, is you wrestle freestyle then Greco, or you wrestle Greco then freestyle, and you wrestle both those styles and everything else. And a couple of things that stood out to me is we were talking about Team Florida, and I don't want to harp just on Team Florida, but their junior freestyle finished top 10. I mean, we are super close. Lost in the true second match in one of the pools on day one. You win that true second match, you finish top 8. And if you look at their list, Sophia Bowie, Aaron Rizzuto, I already said Kiki Bush before, Jasmine Serrano, Christina Borgman, all finished 8-1. All finished 8-1 for Team Florida. And, I throw out records. Here. But records aren't necessarily the best indicator. There are lots of individuals who are really, like, let's take Evelyn Holmes-Smith and Tamarane Benamarito and Elizabeth Rosenthal and Molly Seidman out of Alabama. All of them finish unbeaten. Okay. But when the rest of the team is struggling a little bit, right, and you lose duels and you end up in, say, the green-yellow pool or the purple pool or whatever, there's no sliding it, because I mean that your record is what your record is. You went and did your job. But I've watched wrestlers who finish 3 and 4 out of the gold pool, and they're studs. And that's just because the gold pool happens to have many of the best kids. You know what I mean? So a record isn't always necessarily indicative of whether you had a good tournament or you didn't have a good tournament, or whether you're a stud or you're not a stud. But certainly, a tip of the cap to wrestlers like, Genevieve Vaughn and Elle Kaufman and Artis Eaton, and I already said Zeo Estrada, Riley Sturgill out of Tennessee. All these individuals wrestled, as well as they could wrestle for their teams.
I mean, look at that. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, they all have 3 to 5 kids that girls on the junior side that go bring home winning records and really show up. I mean,
yeah,
like you said, Rizzuto, Bush, Spinoza, Rick, Claremont, Patton, Kaufman, Campbell, Fletcher, Genevieve Ann, Sarah Warren, Crawford, Pollock, Arlita, Estrada, Rappel. So good to all those girls. I mean, wow. And I'm getting this information from SEWrestle.com.
Well, one of the things that's always interesting to me is that this is actually, duels for me are a great benchmark, right? Where do I kind of stand as I head to Fargo? What do I do well? What do I need to work on in the next 3 weeks? If you're winning matches on your feet and then you get taken down and somebody guts you and ends the match, well, you know what? You need to spend the next 3 weeks working on your gut defense. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's just one of those situations where I think it's a great opportunity to really understand what you do well, what you don't do well. And you're going to see a lot of these names in Fargo. And this is their opportunity to kind of get a gauge of where they stand and get ready for that next step, because the next tournament The next tournament is the tournament. This is, I mean, in 3 weeks, it's coming, right?
Oh man. And did you see, and I've been traveling and stuff, so I've tried to keep, when I can get on here and stuff, but I know that you've had a close watch over it. Are there, coming out of the 16U and junior duels, men and women's side, are there matchups that you saw that you're like, I want to see that again at Fargo?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, so there were matches that Southeast kids won, and then there were matchups that Southeast kids lost that I felt like they could win, right? That sometimes you run into a buzzsaw and you just kind of, it's one of those things, and you're like, man, I hope I don't see that kid until like the quarterfinals, right? Because that kid's they're at a different level at the moment. Okay. Not to say that you can't headlock somebody, as Brendon Abdon does so extremely well, right?
Right.
But the likelihood is that a good wrestler is going to avoid certain situations. But I will tell you, like, so Deschamps won. He finished unbeaten. He won some really close, like at least one really close match. Anderson Heap lost one really close match, right? I want to see Mako versus Mirasola again. Neither one I would imagine would be in Fargo. So we probably won't see that matchup. I don't know that we'll ever see that matchup again until they get to college or whatever. But that would be one of the matchups that I'd be really interested in watching. And then there's, matchups on the girls' side that I think that, we mentioned a few names, but, like a Kiki Bush, who had some good, solid wins. How is she going to be able to take those wins? Will we see some of those rematches? The likelihood we see a rematch is not super high because the brackets are 128 kids, or it's a 256 person bracket, and it's a double elimination tournament. So you know what? For
some odd reason, they love to match up Southeast kids, Florida versus Florida, Georgia versus Georgia. Right? I mean, I remember Abdon versus Tito in a blood round match. Like, remember that?
Yeah, I mean, that's not really a matchup because by the time you get to the blood round, they had just survived to get to that point. But your point is well taken in that it does feel like, but the other thing that, and I'm sure every state feels this way, but it also feels to me like there's good kids who always seem to draw Bo Bassett like first round. I'm like, what the heck? Like, what? Why? Like, that is such a terrible draw. Like, you have a kid who can win 4 matches. They may not all American, but they can win those matches, and you end up pulling like a reigning world champion in the freaking first round. What in the world is that about? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen it a lot. We've seen that a lot. There was a kid from Jersey. I'm trying to remember his name. The shot doctor was in his corner, and he's a stud, and I think he went on to All-American. But I remember one of our Florida kids pulling him like in the second round or third round, and there was just not. I mean, we wrestled, but
was it Anthony Knox?
It was Anthony Knox.
I think it was Anthony Knox. I remember that situation, and I think he might have pulled a Tennessee kid first round. He pulled a Florida kid second round. You're like,
it was Anthony Knox. Yeah. So... yeah. And he had oh man. And it was just, he definitely put on a little bit. Obviously later on in the tournament, we got to see a good matchup with him and one of the Rivera boys.
Yeah.
If I remember, that was a good match.
Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So as we're wrapping this up, first I want to say, congratulations to everybody who went and competed. Pan-Ams, you at the very beginning of this, you mentioned several. We mentioned Shannon Hanna, Rivera, who wrestled for Puerto Rico. I think there were actually several others who wrestled for other countries. And we got to talk to Brendon Abdon. But, shout out to all of them who competed for another country. I think that's pretty cool. And then also, go ahead.
And if you want to come on and talk about your experience, let us know. Obviously, Abdon brought home gold, and he's a Southeast kid, and obviously that's huge. And we were happy to have him on. But we're very interested to hear about the experience wrestling for the Bahamas, wrestling for Puerto Rico, Ecuador, Peru. It's very interesting to us, as I had Coach Duck on last week with Giovanni Solis, and he spoke about his experience. But how about Coach Duck going down there and having like 4 or 5 kids from his club that were sprinkled all over the Pan Americans?
Yeah, and they were all U.S. kids, right?
No.
In fact, Giovanni was wrestling for Puerto Rico, was he?
Yeah, and he beat he lost to Hague on Greco, and then he beat Hague on the freestyle side. So bronze and gold, but the Gladiator Club had 4 or 5 kids out there wrestling for their countries, and it's really cool. And Coach Duck talked about it a little bit. Like he's starting to encourage it. Like, let's get these opportunities for these kids. If you can wrestle for Mexico and Nicaragua and Peru and Puerto Rico and USA, let's do it.
The last shout out I'm going to give is to the parents, and the parents who and coaches, obviously, okay, but the coaches go with them and they do all these different things. The parents, they take them to practice, they bring them home for practice, they're dealing with them while they wait, they cut the weight, they do all those different things, and they're paying for all these things. And man, a trip to Peru, as you might know, ain't cheap. Okay.
Yeah, and when you see these asks coming across for these young men and women, help out, even if it's $1, $10, $20.
If you could throw $5 or $10, if everybody
whatever you can
$10
help,
that way, right?
Yeah, because they take care of, and I'm trying to remember your room, but as far as like travel and uniforms and getting there, and while you're there, they'll have food for you and stuff like that at the hotel or for the kids at the tournament, but man, it's thousands and thousands. Did I mention thousands of dollars to fly to these places?
And that's for them. If you want to go watch them, it's going to cost the same amount. Maybe not the same amount, but a lot of money for you as well.
Well, and it's not like like I'm going to wrestle for a dual team and they have an opportunity for me to buy the gear, but I don't necessarily have to. I can probably still wrestle for them without buying. Well, no, you have to buy the team gear. Like you can't show up and wrestle for your world team in your.
I want to go on record right now. If anybody wants to sell me some Team USA world gear, I'm more than happy to buy it.
Yeah. Like you can't show up in Puerto Rico in your Spec Ops,
correct, or your Gladiator Wrestling Club or whatever the case is.
So you have to show up geared up, ready to go, and your coaches. If you're bringing coaches with you, guys, that's an expense. So a lot of these kids have a coach that travels with them because that's what they're comfortable with, and so you have that coming out there because obviously the coaches for the countries are tremendous and they're doing a lot and they're trying to be there. But you still got to cut your weight. You still got to do your stuff, and having your coach there with you is a lot. So, yeah, shout out to these parents. Obviously, parents that are highly involved and are going on to these trips.
All right. As we're wrapping this up, next week is July 2nd. The week after that is July 9th, the week of Fargo. At one point in time, we will do a preview of Fargo. You and I.
Yes. Absolutely.
But then you're off to Peru. So everybody, we haven't actually had this conversation yet, but we'll have this conversation and just look for at least one more show before Fargo from us. But then Dan will be gone for a bit.
I know locally there's a lot. I know the big Megatron is coming to Orlando. But as far as in Florida, not this weekend, the following weekend over at the Spartan RTC, 5th, 6th, 7th will be the Fargo Prep Camp.
Yeah.
So Team Florida, it's encouraged that you're there. It's encouraged that you show up. You will get your gear the final day that you're there. They will hand out your gear and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. I'm
Will you be
actually
there?
working. Yes, yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm
Okay.
actually going to. I was talking to Coach Mason, and I'm actually going to set up. I set up my photo booth. I'm going to set up my little photo booth. I put a background together for Team Florida. It's going to be really cool to be able to walk up, hit the button, and do their stuff with their buddies, and send it all around. And it'll be. I think it'll be a cool touch because, how much can I? The last couple of years I've kind of walked around and taken video of it or interviewed people or did that, and I may still do a couple interviews here or there, but I think the photo booth is going to be awesome because they'll be able to tag people, and I think they'll be able to have fun, and they'll be able to be in the pictures with their friends and their buddies and themselves, and
So
I think that'll just
do me
show
a
some
favor.
stuff.
Take a video of you setting up the photo booth, what it looks like, so that if I'm interested in doing, if I go somewhere or whatever, I would love to be able to see it. Is that cool? How you do it?
Yeah, it's cool. And listen, it's really beta right now. I've kind of put it together myself. I haven't went out and bought one of those fancy schmancy big things that are like $4,000 because they have those fancy things. I've kind of put it together myself with the lights and the pad and everything. And it's cool. It works and it's fun. And I took it out to a quinceañera, and I mean, they just loved it. It was the hit of the party. So it'll be cool because yeah, that too. We could take it up to the 32 qualifier. We could take it
All
to,
right.
listen, at Fargo, how cool would it be to kind of pop it up in the corner there and have kids come up? One cool
Mhm.
thing is it has a video function, so you can set up a background, and you can have a video button there, and you can set up a video function for a 5-second video, 10-second video, 15-second video, whatever. So you could almost have kids come up and question, like, hey, what's it like at Fargo?
All right, guys, I got a question for you. All of you that are watching this, right? In the comments below, I want you to tell me if this gets set up, who's a kid who's never leaving the photo booth? Who's a kid who loves to see themselves on video or picture? Who is the one teammate that will never leave?
Never leave. Yeah, I want to know. And for the three of you that got to this point, for the
That's
three of
right.
you that got to this point and listen to this show, I'd like to know who you are. I know one will be Coach Tony, because he calls me every week, goes, I'm in the top 3 again. So yeah.
All right, Dan.
shout out to
I
him.
appreciate it. I appreciate a great talk with Brendon this week, man. Really glad that we were able to coordinate that with him.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I hope we can continue to do that with kids around the Southeast.
Absolutely. So, you guys, we enjoyed the conversation this week. Look for a Fargo preview coming up, and Dan, you take care, man.
You too, sir.